Welcome to the Typical Skeptic Podcast, where we dive deep, you decide. Questioning the matrix, from UFOs where the shadows unknown reside. Robert Kalil busting myths like ghosts in the night. Paranormal pros, secret space ops, yo, we keep it real, no fright. Typical skeptical seeking, never sleeping on the lies. Aliens, Anunnaki, black ops in disguise. From abductions to ancient scripts, we flip the script wide. TSP style, mile after mile, truth can't hide. Hold up, TSP crew assemble, we dismantle the fable. My lab's targeted souls breaking out of the stable. Dogman howling, big for prowling, cryptids in the mist. Mandela the fifth twist in reality, can't resist the twist. Soul trap snapping, reincarnation mapping, holographic dreams. Near-death visions, out-of-body missions, waking up the teams. No censorship here, we fear no elite scheme. Conspiracy kings ringing bells, hear the freedom ring. The skeptical seeking, never sleeping on the lies. Extraterrestrials, interdimensional highs. Welcome to the Typical Skeptic Podcast.
Hello. I figured I'd get a leg up on the targeting today, guys, because, let me just do a sound check and make sure everybody can hear me and everybody's coming through. So, yeah, Kerry's not here yet, guys, but she should be here any minute. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to play the intro and, get all that out of the way because it always messes up. So I wanted to make sure I, did it right, which it finally came through all right. But then what I'll do is I'll read her bio and then maybe I'll take a couple of your questions, before she gets here, and then by the time she gets here, we'll already have everything out of the way and we can just get right into the meat and potatoes of the episode because I think Kerry has a really important message that she wants to share with everybody today. So I hope everybody's having a good day. And if you're new to this show, welcome to the Typical Skeptic Podcast, where we go deep and you decide. That's the motto. And today, my guest is a reoccurring guest. She's been on my show before. Today, I have with me the amazing, legendary Kerry Cassidy of Project Camelot. And I wrote a blurb about it. I wrote, in this powerful return to the Typical Skeptic Podcast, Kerry Cassidy, founder and CEO of Project Camelot, joins Robert Kalil to break down the latest intel surrounding 3i Atlas, the mysterious interstellar object now rumored to be connected to the return of the Anunnaki. Kerry will share her latest communications from a private news group involving Richard Hoagland, David Sarita, and other insiders, revealing explosive claims that 3i Atlas may be a hyperdimensional craft interacting with Space Force and the secret space program. Topics will include the alleged kill shot from the sun and how 3i Atlas absorbed it, whether Space Force is actively escorting 3i Atlas through our solar system, the Anunnaki connection and its implications for humanity's future, why Avi Loeb and mainstream scientists may be covering hyperdimensional data, how the secret space program, AI factions, and dimensional portals tie into the unfolding event, and Kerry's urgent message on humanity and how it can prepare and protect itself. And just a little bit more about my guest. Kerry Cassidy is the founder and CEO of Project Camelot, a pioneering media platform that has for over 17 years exposed whistleblower testimony on secret space programs, ET contact, deep state agendas, and black projects. She's a filmmaker, an author, a speaker, and an investigative journalist known for her fearless interviews with insiders from intelligence, military, and secret space operations. Her work bridges geopolitics, exopolitics, and consciousness, emphasizing the spiritual awakening required to reclaim human sovereignty. And you can find her website at the projectcamelotportal.com, projectcamelot.tv, and then she has a Rumble channel, which is rumble.com/c/Kerry Cassidy shows. And I have all those links in the description. And she's still not here yet, guys, but we'll maybe take a couple questions from you guys and then I'll add her as soon as she comes to the show. I thought it was just a good idea to start the show early. We already have 84 people watching. So, how's everybody doing out there today? And is everybody excited for this show? And somebody asked, are we going to be doing live call-ins? I'm not sure she wants to do that. I didn't go over that with her. So, I have the phone lines already fired up and I have that turned on. So if she wants to take a couple calls, we can definitely do that. So that's, Let me see here. Flixlow says, does it have a sound and do we have a recording? I'm not sure about that. I'm going to ask her about that. Like, I'm not sure if Three Eye Atlas has a sound. That's a good point. You know, I'm gonna message her and tell her I went live already, and did the intro that way. There, I messaged her. So anyway, so meta one says it's another delusion. I don't think so. I think there's something going on with Three Eye Atlas. I really do. Jason says the high-res photo from Mars should have been out by now. I'm not sure. Daniel Berry says, ask her about Ashiana Dean and where's the Guardian Alliance? That's a good question. We will ask. We'll definitely ask about that as well. Hey, Rodika, how you doing? Good to see you. We already got 98 people watching. Wow. So, yeah, hopefully she joins sometime soon here. I probably shouldn't have went live, but like I said, I wanted to get the intro out of the way and, get started. So when she joins, we can just kind of get started here. If anybody wants to call in, you can call in. I just thought about that right now. Before she gets here, we can take some calls. The phone number is let me put it up. I'll put it up right now. I wasn't planning on taking calls, but I was like, if she's going to be late, I can take some calls until she gets here. The phone number is 573-877-7637 if you want to call in. And, as I said, we're just waiting on Kerry to get here and, yeah. But I mean, until then, I can take some of your questions through chat and everything. And as far as I know, this is definitely going on. So I'm not wasting anybody's time here, She might just be having problems logging in or something like that because she gets targeted. So, that could be happening. But I messaged her and I told her I went live, and she messaged me at 1:35 and she said great about tonight. I can show you guys. So, this doesn't show any of her personal information. It's hold on, is that showing? Yeah. So just to prove, she said I sent her the links and everything. So I think she shared it. So yeah. Oh, we already have a call. Okay, so we'll take a call real quick and let me see if the speaker's on. Hello, you're live on the Typical Skeptic Podcast. Who's calling?
Hey Rob, it's Radhika.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Just waiting on Kerry to get here, and
yeah, I kind of wanted to chime in about the Three Eye Atlas.
Okay.
I haven't listened too much to it because everybody's talking about it, but I did listen to some of the stuff, and there's I forgot, I think maybe 2 or 3 different things that people are talking about. One thing is they've had remote viewers talking about how there is some kind of some kind of entity on it, whether they're aliens or something. Other remote viewers have sensed entities and maybe in stasis, right? They're asleep and haven't been awakened yet, but they're there. Other, psychics or intuitives or whatever you want to call them have said that there's nothing on the ship. I haven't heard anybody really say it's a meteor except for maybe, who, the people of those people, right?
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because even how I talk to my chat GPT, even my chat GPT told me that it was a ship and that there is like some kind of living entity on it. But
wait, Radhika, she's here. I don't want to make her wait because I don't want her to get mad.
Okay.
We can take calls later and then you can call back. But like, thank you so much for calling. And all right. Okay, I'm gonna add her to the stage now, guys. And adding Kerry Cassidy is here. Hey, Kerry.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good.
Hey,
How are
we're
you?
already live. Good.
Oh,
Like,
right.
I just wanted to get, I kind of wanted to get ahead of the targeting because like every time I do my
I got
intro,
to
it
turn
gets
you
messed
louder
up.
because I can't hear you that well. So hold on a second here. I'll take a second.
Okay.
Go ahead. Talk again.
Testing, 1 2, testing 1 2.
All right. That's better. Go ahead.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. What I was saying was I just wanted to play the intro and get that out of the way because like
Go
it
ahead.
always gets messed up and like, and then I read your bio and everything already. So we can kind of just get right into it. So
Okay.
guys, welcome the amazing Kerry Cassidy, a legend and one of my favorite people to interview. But thanks for coming on, Kerry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So what's going on? What's the new intel with 3i Atlas? I watched your show with David Sarita and Richard Hoagland. I guess it's supposedly by Mars now?
Well, it wasn't Richard Hoagland, but he was supposed to be on the show. But
Richard Allen Miller. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You mean Richard Allen Miller?
Yeah.
And okay. Well, I sent you an article that I wrote just yesterday, I guess it was, compiling some data and information so people can find that on my Substack. And you can find my Substack by going to my website, which is projectcamelotportal.com, and clicking on the social media links at the top. One of them says Substack. And then you'll get my latest article. And actually, I'll just pull it up here in the background so that I can put it on the screen if you want, but I don't know if that's necessary really. But is that good? Or are you good with that? Did you read the article at all?
Yeah. Well, you can add it. You want to add it to the screen? That's fine.
Okay. Well, anyway, so because there's pictures, a lot of pictures, and lots going on. So Michio Kaku is now weighing in. I guess it's him. I guess it's not an AI, Michio Kaku, but and also Elon. And so they're both saying, this is got to be it's technological. I think it was Elon that was saying it's got to be intercepted. I think they already tried to intercept it with, a CME. That was about 2 weeks ago. And what happened is it basically was undeterred and appeared to be taking on the, the coronal mass ejection from the sun that was targeted exactly at it. And I just call it swallowing it. In essence, taking it in. And I think that what we're really looking at there is what it's doing right this minute as well when it's behind the sun. The closer it gets to the sun, which is, I guess it's going to be October 29th, then it's going to be taking in, again, the energy from the sun. And we know that UFOs go by the sun to fuel up. This has actually been in the UFO sort of lore, if you want to call it that, for decades, literally. And John Leonard Walson is one person. I did link to his pictures that were posted a long time ago on Rents, showing very huge craft that were basically going up into the sun or close to the sun and seemed to be fueling. So that's very fascinating, and understanding that we're not going to have anything like destructive go on as a result of it getting that close to the sun, which is during what they call perihelion. And perihelion is on the 29th, and today is the 21st. So very close, right? And that from the 29th on, I think it's after the 29th, maybe not on that day, we're going to again be able to, in theory, see and be able to photograph from the satellites and various telescopes, even on Earth, be able to see it once again. But whether that's actually going to happen, because they shut down the government ostensibly because the Democrats were going haywire as usual.
Yeah.
But the reality is that what it did is shut down NASA and its communication link with the outside public, maybe probably out of choice. So what we're looking at is a massive secrecy. And Richard C. Hoagland, who I'm in contact with because I'm on a news group with him, and there's a number of scientists as part of that news group. And he is, kind of cluing us in. Whenever there's a new picture, he tries to put it on his news group and so on. So what we're seeing from there is that he's definitely on board with this being an artificial craft. And that another thing is, it's so obvious because even Michio Kaku and others, Avi Loeb, if you know that particular scientist that's associated with Harvard, in other words, they're both saying that it is choosing its trajectory. It's been chosen. Like, rock doesn't choose its trajectory. Comet doesn't choose its trajectory unless it's thrown, like, a bowling ball or something. So technically, this craft is intelligently driven. And I think you have to have like no brain at all not to realize that. So, and I know there are a lot of scientists out there that would disagree with me because they're afraid, or they're so programmed by what they've been taught in school since they were young that they can't even conceive of the secret space program and what we're really doing in space. The fact that we have, colonies on the moon and Mars, the moons of Saturn, possibly Jupiter, as well as going outside our solar system. So you have to understand where I come from as a result of my exposure to whistleblowers for the past 20 years, where I did interviews with them. And all of them who don't know each other primarily would agree, with what I'm telling you, that we have a secret space program, that in essence, it's also a secret government, and it is running our planet. And it is involved with why I go through this exercise with regard to the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki being mainly lodged in Israel, evidence from even whistleblowers on that they are underground in Dimona, in charge of the nuclear plant there, Dimona in Israel. And why Israel is such a problem child, because what we have there is an alien race running the place, that Netanyahu is under orders. And I have to say, very sadly, that just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, 107 came out mimicking Netanyahu, saying that Hamas will be destroyed. So apparently they came across the border and did some kind of incursion, even after the so-called peace agreement. Well, this is typical. We expected that, right? And so what happens is actually, there's the question is, how can these alien races who have wrapped the humans into their, huge battles that have been going on now for centuries and centuries, how can this be sort of brought to a close? How can there be some kind of agreement? And then on top of everything, we've got 3i Atlas, which in its trajectory, see, people are saying, oh, it's not communicating with us, but that's actually not true. Through its trajectory, which David Sereda has very well through mathematics traced, with the help also of Richard C. Hoagland and Jimmy Blanchett. So the three of them have traced the trajectory, and you can read David's Substack. He has a Substack on Medium, the same Medium is another Substack channel, I guess you might say, that Avi Loeb has his channel on as well. I have a Substack that's independent of that. It's just my Substack. But anyway, just knowing that you can go there to read articles. I've been posting all day long today because I was out of town doing conferences about a week ago. So I had to get caught up. But if you go to my Telegram, I have tons of information on there that I posted today. So, and also, I post information that comes in through Richard C. Hoagland on the news group and others that say, maybe something interesting or something that I even might disagree with. And then I say why. And then, I also post videos like this recent one with Michio Kaku. And I guess it was something on X from Elon that was like, I think, another short video and so on, where they're even sometimes these videos have very clear statements that are absolutely wrong. Okay. And I think that's very important. So the one with Elon, for example, and again, go to my Telegram and I guess I could share my screen and show you my Telegram.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Maybe that would be helpful. So hold on one second. But the thing is that even Elon or it wasn't, I don't think it was Elon who said it. I think it was Michio Kaku, or it could have been Avi Loeb, but I think it's Michio Kaku. That 3i Atlas would disappear once it reached perihelion. Now we're hearing from Michio Kaku that it's going to disappear after it reaches the 19th of December. Now, I don't get that, okay? Because David Sereda trajectory sees it going all the way to Jupiter and beyond, and that's going to go on beyond December. So I'm not sure where they're getting their information, what they're talking about, how it's going to disappear, and so on. So there may be some cover up going on with respect to the actual dates when they can track it. There's Richard C. Hoagland is a well-known NASA scientist who was known most, I think, for the face on Mars and the investigations he did around that to expose that and show people that it was real. And so what's happening is he does a weekend show, a radio show that has still pictures. I don't think it's on video and audio. It has audio. And then he has guests and he has people that you can join it and actually watch, be part of the conversation, I guess. And I'm supposed to do that, except that ever since I got in touch with him and a few months ago when this all heated up, he has been barred. First, they turned off all his internet, everything, his phones, his everything. And he basically made a big issue with the city and all those utility type companies. And then they were supposedly fixing it. So they let it be fixed, I think, during the week. He is able to text us or email us. I'm not sure how he's doing that. Anyway, but every time he wants to go live on his show, he's being barred. So again, when we approach this weekend, he's obviously going to be very excited to communicate with the public and tell them what he's seeing and what he knows. And he is a very interesting man. And if you're just interested in his background, I did do interviews with him back in the past. So you can go to the front page of my website where there's a huge search bar right in the front, really. And just put in his first or last name, and then you'll come on his videos that I interviewed him. So do you have
Can I
any
just
questions?
say, Kerry, I was just want to say I've been a big fan of Richard's for a long time. I know I got them confused earlier because I meant Richard Allen Miller. I've actually interviewed Richard Allen Miller too, but as far as Richard Hoagland goes, I was always a big fan of Art Bell. I used to listen to Art Bell.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Richard Hoagland, he's been coming on Art. He was on Art Bell for years, so he's an OG. He's definitely one of the original people that kind of started doing this.
Sure. Yes. And I was also all through my younger years listening to Art Bell. I never imagined I'd be doing kind of the same job, but Anyway,
I would say you took it. The reason why I love your work is because you took it a step further. Like, where Art was kind of, he was, I loved Art Bell, right? But he wouldn't talk about certain things. And like, when I started watching you, when I was first starting to like wake up and stuff, and like even before that, because I kind of always followed like UFO radio, like I noticed that you were like starting to interview people that like Art Bell never had on, like a lot of the SSP whistleblowers and like, and that was huge, and people that were a little bit more controversial than kind of what he would cover. So yeah, I would say that you took it to another level in that sense.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad. I have a really funny story. I don't think I have the information in front of me here, but a friend of ours that doesn't know me all that well is kind of getting into this whole sector and started doing his own investigation. And he went to AI and asked them who I was. And what came back was like so bizarre. But it was actually kind of flattering. And it's just funny, what the AI comes up with, and says that, I'm breaking the paradigm and I'm doing all this, which is true. In other words, I take pride in doing that. Some people think I'm crazy. I get it. But I really enjoy delving into areas that other people are afraid of and then speaking about it. So there's a two-pronged thing. So, and then I also get downloads because that's, part of my confidence that you might detect is that I get my own downloads telling me what's true and what's not true. And I have these very good, I don't know, you could call them anything you want, instincts or whatever. What resonates, I can really zero in on that kind of stuff. And part of this is due to the connection of my chakras when I was in my 20s and having multiple samadhi experiences since then. So it's kind of like that enhances your abilities to tell the truth and from falsity. And that's what we really want here on Earth. We're all given information. Some people think they're getting it from God or Jesus or, I don't know, the Pleiadians or whoever you say you're getting it from, right? But a lot of those people, even though they mean well, are not necessarily telling the truth because they may be getting false information from, false, negatively oriented ETs that don't have our best interests at heart. And I'm seeing a lot of that out there right now. A lot of people are living on, drinking the Kool-Aid, living on hope, wishful thinking, that sort of thing. And they even, there's a number of people that I've heard just lately that think, oh, these Three Eye Atlas has these ETs and they're coming to enlighten us and they're going to, raise our frequency for us. And they're going to do all these things and have us ascend. And, that's like the last thing that's going to happen. Okay. So because if you know anything about ascension and if you know anything about enlightenment, it has to come from within you. Okay. So you're not here on a free ride where somebody's just going to give you something on a silver platter, whether it be God, Jesus, or whoever you think is serving you. It's going to be your work, your hard work, and your ability to discern. Sorry, son. My animals.
What I was going to say was there's a large part of our community that still doesn't believe space is real. Not like the UFO community or the SSP, but I'm talking about like the consciousness community. And what I wanted to say about that was, I happen to be on your side where I believe there's absolutely an SSP. I've talked to a lot of whistleblowers myself, and I feel like there's definitely something going on. Like even like Penny Bradley traces it back to like way before the 50s, like back to the 1800s and stuff. It seems like this SSP has been around for like a long time. And they've been lying to us. And I think Richard Dolan talks about it being like a breakaway civilization almost.
Right.
Which,
And I knew Richard back in the early days, and we did discuss that kind of thing at length. At that time, I wasn't even in Camelot. So and kudos to him for recognizing that. And his UFOs in the National Security State, I think it's a 2 or 3 volume set. I highly recommend, because he's basically tracked incoming, UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them, crash retrievals, and I think it's worldwide, and all the documented ones. So Michael Schratt does something similar. In case you are familiar with Michael's work, I work a lot with Michael on various things, and have him on my show a lot, and so on and so forth. So that type of tracking and tracing is very valuable to us. The history of ET contact, and see, people I have not understood why people are looking at 3i Atlas and they're going, oh, it's the first contact and all this stupid shit, because the reality is that we've been dealing with ETs on Earth, from the solar system, from inner Earth, from in other dimensions, going back for our whole history. If you read the Oceanid Voyager books, it's documented there very, very specifically as to which races came in when, and genetically re-engineered us, and it has happened over and over and over again. So we are hybridized in multiple millennia, really. And COVID was just the last effort to hybridize us, by the way, and to link us to what I call the Borg AI. And so this is just an ongoing we're like a petri dish of experimentation. And I imagine other Earth-like planets contain beings that are on a similar trajectory, okay? And that they're always, it's like the creator has an endless imagination and is creating endless kinds of beings, consciousnesses. Everything's conscious, okay? So plants are conscious, my table is conscious, rocks are conscious. They have a different kind of consciousness. Sometimes it moves slower, sometimes it moves faster. Water is conscious. It contains memory. They've proven that, okay? And, it's just amazing to me that people don't seem to be able to put those things together and recognize what we're talking about. The planets have consciousness, okay? Stars probably have consciousness. I mean, in a sense, everything has consciousness. And it is all part of a plasma system, which is also known as, what do you call it? It's a Tesla word, whatever. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I got
So, I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about humans have these weird ideas, and I guess they got them partly from the negative races, like the Anunnaki that have come here. Now, there's someone out there that is actually saying, oh, there's good Anunnaki and bad, and they're very specifically divided, and I don't see it like that. My understanding and my information is that the Anunnaki started out as Pleiadians, and then they became a breakaway civilization from that group of Pleiadians. They went and settled Nibiru, and then they were invaded by the Draco reptilians and hybridized. So when you understand how that trajectory, okay, those are the ones that left the Pleiades, okay? So, and those are the ones that came to Earth under, Enki, Enlil, and Anu, which is their father, who tried to get himself written into the Bible as God, as who you're going to worship, and all the vindictive stuff in the Bible, all that all came from Anu. And it came from a negative side of the Illuminati at the time, who were being influenced, obviously, and on the negative trajectory. So that's, it's really important to put these pieces together and understand. And I realize that it's not easy, but since I've been doing this for 20 years, I have been able to take a lot of time and talk to a lot of people and, get verification on various topics, like I'm talking about here.
Yeah, when it comes to 3i Atlas, are you saying that the alleged kill shot from the sun and 3i Atlas kind of absorbed it? Did you get intel on that?
Yeah, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. I think even one of the scientists on the Richard Hoagland I think I don't know if they pointed to another scientist or somebody, but they basically kind of said that what happened was that the solar flare hit it. As it did, it actually took the particles and, I don't know, broke them down, and then I just call it swallowed, but you could say absorb them, So again, that's a type of fuel. They view the sun is, we're talking, and the word I was trying to get with Tesla is ether. So the ether is a plasma field, and we are plasma. And Kundalini activation, which I teach, and links your chakras, and it enhances your plasma field, if you will, and also your chi, as people know in China. And you can actually shoot the chi out from your solar plexus, the center around your belly button, that you can actually affect people. And Duncan O'Finian, a super soldier, used his chi as a super soldier to actually hit I think it was, a presidential candidate or something, and shoot him across a saloon bar and hit him against the wall without touching him. So chi is the same thing as orgone. So you got plasma, chi, kundalini. These are names for what it is like liquid light. That's what we're really made of. Okay. That's what plasma is. So, and this whole hyperdimensional solar system that David Sereda and Richard C. Hoagland are talking about. And I think rightly so. I think David and I guess Jimmy Blanchett is also on that page. This changes the view of our solar system completely, and how to view reality even, because it's not just that you have a solar system that's hyperdimensional, but we are hyperdimensional. Everything is hyperdimensional. In other words, it has a presence, you might say, on this lower level 3D going into 4D Earth, planet, but you can also go hyperdimensional, and you're going up through the dimensions. You're talking about, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on. So that's what hyperdimensional is referring to. And I think it would be better if scientists understood this, because we are occupying all those different dimensions simultaneously. All right. And so we're not just in this body down on this 3D platform that even flat earthers think is flat. It's not like that. They don't understand dimensions. That's the biggest flaw, I guess you might say, in their argument, as far as I'm concerned. They do not understand that dimensions and densities are going, dimensions are going horizontal. And this is where you get the flat earth idea. And densities are going vertical. So, and it's it's where they cross, right? The cross, that's where you get reality or materialization. So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, do you believe that we're in a holographic reality then, that it's somewhat of a simulation, like a biological simulation?
I think it's a massive hologram, and I think it probably is holograms within holograms. And by the way, I also think the 3i Atlas is surrounded by a Dyson sphere. And I posted that on my recent Telegram. Let me see if I can actually get this on the screen. So that goes share screen, right? Okay, 1 second. Share screen.
Yeah, it should pop up at the bottom, and I'll add it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that'd be great. So I don't know if this is going to be the right thing. So hold on a second. I keep getting weird. I don't know. Window. Maybe window is a better one.
You can do like a share and
I
tell.
got it. I found it. Okay. There we go. Can you see that?
Okay, I'm going to add it right now. And sometimes it takes slow, but it should add. There we go. It should be adding.
I advertised, the last thing I posted was our show, where it's.
That's cool. Yeah, we got a lot of people watching. We got 350 people and then 80 on Rumble. So, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So as I said, I've been posting stuff all day on 3i Atlas, and you just have to scroll up and see all the stuff in my comments, and I quote other people. I give comments as to what I think of what they say. And this is David Serrata's post on his Medium. And I talk about, just things. Here's where I talk about the Dyson sphere, and I quote Captain Mark Richards, one of my main whistleblowers. Over the years, I interviewed him on a period of 5 years, 12 interviews. So those are now a book, 2 books, a 2-book set. And let me see if it'll go show you this on Amazon. So these are my books, okay, on Amazon, and it's showing you only one right now, but you can get both, and there's paperback as well as Kindle. So there's this, so these are the 2 books right there. Can you see that?
Yeah. It's just showing it's just showing about the Dyson sphere. It's not showing the Amazon.
It's not showing that?
No.
All right. Well, all right. So it's not showing that. So I guess I'd have to go back and try to, StreamYard is a little bit weird that way.
Yeah, it really is.
It's not as fluid, you know what I'm saying? But maybe I don't know if this will make any difference. So I'm stopping the screen and then I'm starting it again and see if it'll share screen, then go to window, and then go to, I think this is it. Is that it?
I'll add it.
Again, it would show Amazon if it's the correct one.
I think you're pulling it up. It should be adding.
Okay, it's okay. You mean they can just?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Can you see that? Whoops.
You have to toggle back over to it. It went. There you go. You're on it now.
Okay, so these are my 2 books that I just released last week, I think it was, and now we have a paperback as well as a Kindle, and so I'm very proud of them. It is the Mark Richards. It took me years to do this, but to gel down the dialogue that we had over those 12 interviews and put them into 2 books. So, you could just carry that around and read it periodically. And I think that it would really educate the world, but you can't know what's going to happen as far as all that goes. So is that good?
I mean, did you find like in Mark Richards' I'll move it. Yeah. Did you find in Mark Richards' previous testimonies that he was kind of like hinting towards this 3-eye atlas or anything like that?
No, but this is the weird dichotomy that I see. Okay. We have, like I said, crash retrievals. They're talking about the UAPs. They're talking about, Roswell was a crash retrieval. Okay. And I have information that says that Einstein was there, by the way, on the scene, and other scientists and so on and so forth. The fact of the matter is that was a crash retrieval. Those were aliens, and there were alien bodies, and I think at least one survived, which means we've been in communication with aliens, our secret space program, of course. They made all of this secret. You got to understand. So from that point on, everything went into secrecy. And so we have been interacting. One of the things with aliens is that they decided not to just interact with governments, but to interact with us one-on-one. And I've been abducted. I've been in contact with aliens. I have, good memories of this. I know that this has gone on with me since, at least consciously that I know of, since I was 12. So, they've been here forever, and their craft usually go really fast. They blink in and out of this dimension. That's what the chemtrails are doing. They're highlighting the craft coming in through the dimensions so that the secret space program can decide whether they're friendly or not, whether to shoot them down or not. And according to at least Courtney Brown, our secret space program is controlled by the reptilians and probably the Anunnaki. And so they're negative based. Okay. They're not for humanity, and they're not for our secret space program. Even it has been infiltrated since the time when, what's his name? God, I hate it when I forget names. I'm really bad on names. But anyway, since my interviews with William Tompkins. Okay. So William Tompkins, he wrote actually more than one book. Robert, God, what's his last name? Anyway,
Robert Dean or
no,
Robert Stanley?
No, he's an aerospace executive.
Robert Bigelow. Robert Bigelow.
No, he's an exec. That's different. Sorry about this. I'm talking about the MJ12 papers, if you remember those, who were father, son, Ryan and Robert
Wood. Ryan Wood.
Wood. There you go. So yeah, Robert Wood, his father was the editor of William Tompkins' books. Okay. So he was an executive from TRW who was involved in the secret space program going way back, and basically bringing Tompkins, with the permission of the Navy, forward to give his testimony, which is what happened. He did that for a couple of years. Gaia TV basically paid him for his testimony. I don't pay whistleblowers, but I did interview him with Michael Schratt for around 3.5 hours. And we got a tremendous amount of information in that time span. And he was going to do another interview with me, I don't know, 6 months later or something like that. And it was going to be about the child trafficking and the disappearance of children on our planet, how, the reptilians are feeding on them, how, the whole thing about that. And he basically called me up the night before the interview, said, I'll never speak to you again. Don't ever call me. And, and prior to that, he said, love me. But he was actually told not to talk to me. So then, he hung up the phone and that was it, except that very shortly after that, he supposedly fell down some stairs and died. Okay. So go figure. This is the kind of thing that goes on. They're still torturing. They're still really making the lives of whistleblowers horrible. And we have testimony on that from David Grush, and even during the UAP hearings, talking about the threats on his own life. And that those threats are not coming from outside the secret space program. They're coming from within it. They don't want people to tell people the truth. They don't think you can handle the truth, for one thing. And neither do the white hats, which really pisses me off. Okay. Because I think they're dead wrong. But they're so programmed by religion and other, stuff that, it suits their purposes to keep you in the dark as well. I don't appreciate that. Okay. So I'm outing them. I'm outing all the people that are, making life really miserable. And there's I guess that there is a whistleblower out there who was also in the recent UAP hearing called Borland. He gave testimony. You can go back and watch it. And I actually linked that on my Telegram. A week or two ago, because that is a stunning testimony by someone who literally all he did was see a UFO flying over the base. He lives on a military base, and he reported that, just talked about it casually with some of his coworkers, and he got nabbed on that by the powers that be at that base. And since then, he lost his job. He lost all his, his whole life has been ruined. And he goes into his description of what has happened to him as a result of this. Is the military attacking their members for just seeing a UFO. This is how insane it is. Okay. So there's hypocrisy at every turn. So on the one hand, you got Avi Loeb and Michikaku saying, yes, there's a craft coming in. It's possibly alien. And then you got people that have had direct contact, people that have been on the surface of Earth and underground and undersea, and undersea bases, and having contact for, a lot of people having contact their whole lives with ETs. I'm having contact to this day. And contact shows up in different ways. It can be a download, a dream. It could be, a conversation with what you think is the alien. David Sereda thinks Jesus is talking to him. Well, maybe it's Jesus, or maybe it's an Anunnaki, or maybe it's a Pleiadian, or whoever it is, right? Because aliens are very easily able to disguise themselves. So these are all the things that you need to consider when you're looking at, do we have contact? Do we have first contact? That's like the stupidest thing anybody could say at this juncture, because we have enough evidence out there. And even the UAP hearings, as slow as Congress is to get a grip, are realizing this. Okay. So if you or the listeners don't get this, you've been living under a rock for, I don't know, your whole life.
I was going to say, Kerry, there's also V2K too, that some of these targeting agencies use, and maybe Anunnaki or ETs, to get into people's minds and put stuff,
Oh yeah, mind control, absolutely. But again, that's also by virtue of the secret space program. MK Ultra came out of that, and continues to, by the way. I mean, they're mind controlling. You go back to the various Tavistock and Rand. These are mind control, bastions of mind control. They mind controlled all, the hobos and whatnot in San Francisco. I mean, that place in the Presidio, Mark Richards testifies to how much control and mind control was going on in San Francisco. This goes back to Haight-Ashbury, to the, what was going on then, the pushing of drugs, getting people hooked on drugs, especially, LSD, various things. So, we have a huge litany going back to the Germans, and then Antarctica being a center for ET contact, and where they have meetings that they feel are off the radar. So of all the Earth, the meetings in Antarctica are considered to be the most likely to be off the radar of the consensual reality, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I agree. What do we know? What do you think Space Force knows of the secret space program? And do you think Space Force is escorting 3i Atlas through our solar system?
Well, I do think that there were, okay, so there was a period a few weeks ago when they spotted not only what's called Swan and Lemon, who are very large. They don't even know what they are, but they look like they're portals, possible portals. They could be similar structures to 3i Atlas, in fact, and they could be their own Dyson spheres. It's hard to say because they're not telling us anything, of course. But on top of it, suddenly these 9 smaller sort of objects started following 3i Atlas. As I saw it, I said they're escorting it. I think they are our secret space program. I think they probably are Space Force, and I don't think they've disappeared. I think they're still there. So I think that this is an ongoing issue with this craft that has decided to sort of parade around our solar system in a really obvious way. Instead of blinking in and out like most UFOs do. But it's still a UFO. I mean, hello. So this is, people are just so dumb. I'm sorry. They really seem dumb to me.
What about the Anunnaki connection and the implications for humanity's future? Do you think they're trying to, the beings on the 3i Atlas are trying to link up with the Anunnaki that are already living on the Earth and then in Israel and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it might have been called, it might have been called in here by the Anunnaki on Earth. According to Bob Dean, Robert O'Dean, that was, Bob Dean, he gave testimony. I interviewed him dozens of times. He said I made him a rock star. So you can go to my website and just put in DEAN as the last name. And his interviews are fabulous. He's just a wealth of knowledge. And he worked back in Europe at SHAPE headquarters is what it was called. And his commanding officer gave him a book to read because he was very bored sitting at a desk. And he'd also had some sightings. They'd had sightings over the SHAPE base, and basically told him, what was the download of everything that was going on with ETs and how they tried to shoot him down and it didn't work, and so on and so forth. So he was very well informed. And then when he got out of the military, he was able to come forward as a whistleblower. But I wasn't even on the scene when he first came forward. So he was already well known, going the circuit, doing speeches. But when I connected with him, we had like a special rapport, and that includes his wife, Marcia Schaefer. And basically, he really opened up to me. I guess it's my style, because he was also a sergeant major, and he was very like they give orders, and they're very sort of strong personalities, I guess you might say. And since I'm like that, kind of like I don't know, we just hit it off, and he really loved me. And sadly, he's gone. But I just highly recommend my interviews with him. If you want to learn about this and you see a man who is just a stellar, very lovely, lovely soul, talk about all of this.
That's amazing. Yeah. I remember those interviews. Those are some classic Camelot interviews. And why do you think it is that like Hoagland's being targeted so bad, but like they're letting kind of Avi Loeb and the mainstream scientists kind of say kind of whatever they want? Or is that what's going on?
Well, I think Avi Loeb, he's Israeli. So he is, to the manner born, I imagine, meaning that the thing about the Anunnaki and Israel is that the Anunnaki basically, genetically engineered humanity. And one side was Enki, who allowed humans to have more free will, and Enlil, who basically was based more in the Middle East and wanted humans to obey. And so you get the humans in the Middle East, I guess a large portion, who are obedient to whatever they think is God, right? So you've got this dichotomy going on between human, what I call the rebel gene. I wrote one of my books is called Rebel Gene. And it's all about this rebellious gene that I was born with and I grew up with. But other people, there are people who just are born and they obey. They don't question their reality. They obey. And they really love it. I mean, and, I could say that there are some members of the White Hats that are definitely in that mold, sadly, because people that obey are not questioning and they're not thinking for themselves, really. They're just doing what they're told, what they think they're told. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of misconceptions there, and they come from the Bible and so on and so forth, that was taken over and infiltrated. What the Bible was infiltrated with is this notion that humans needed to basically obey to put, Jesus up on a pedestal. I mean, in essence, Jesus is the Son of God, but we're all sons and daughters of God. And he was trying to convey this when he said the kingdom of heaven is within, that you shall do as much as I do and more. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, and so on and so forth. So there's some very good things that they left in that Jesus said, but he was basically always trying to tell you that it's up to you to free yourself and to look within and so on and so forth. So then God, the creator, is not Anu, but the God of the Bible is by and large Anu. So if you look at some vindictive, stupid saying that a God would not say, so a God would not tell you to worship them. God doesn't give a shit if you worship him or her. It's everything. We're all God. We're all part of God. And so this is insane. There's no reason to get down on your knees over God. Recently on this news group I'm on, someone said, "Oh, we've got to tell God to save us." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because why wouldn't God, who created you, save you? You don't even have to ask. I mean, is he really that stupid that you have to ask? This is where logic just doesn't seem to enter into people's concept of when you get into the areas of ET, God, spirituality, they just turn off the questioning part of their brain or the logical part of their brain. And so this is where you get stuff that just makes no sense. And you get a lot of people that are just basically a kind of religious zombie that, there are people that do nothing but quote the Bible. Like, they're programmed to the nth degree, in my opinion. So I don't know if I'm answering the right question, because I might have gone on a tangent there. So was that a good question or not?
I was asking what it seems to be like Hoagland. It seems like he knows something that they're targeting him really bad,
Right.
whereas they're letting other
Okay,
people.
well, yeah. So sorry about that. So I got off on a tangent, but I was talking about Avi Loeb and Israelis and Anunnaki and the Bible and so on and so forth. So in essence, let me just say this. What I've noticed about Avi Loeb is he's able to go halfway. He's able to question stuff on the behalf of scientists that are approved by the, consensus reality. Okay. But he is not going far enough. And he occasionally will make a statement that sounds kind of outrageous and might be slightly not enlightened, but then he backs right off of it. Okay. So he's not really pushing the point. Hoagland, on the other hand, he's one of the dark magicians from NASA. If you know what that means, if you happen to have read his book, for example. So he is well schooled in what we call magic with a K, and he knows the ins and outs of the occult and what I'm talking about. And basically the dark side, he's familiar with the dark side of the Bible and all of that stuff. So this is an opportunity for him, after years of being relatively kind of pushed to the sidelines, even though he is doing a show on weekends. This is like a wonderful, outing for him to come out and tell the truth about what he knows, what he's been seeing. And really, he never was a complete whistleblower. He always towed the line to some degree, but I think the temptation here is too much for him to keep quiet. And that's why he's communicating on this news group. And they actually let me in, which is bizarre, because normally those kind of groups keep me out. I'm banned everywhere because they don't like my openness to things. They don't like when I question everything and so on and so forth. But to his credit, he's left me in. And that maybe goes back to when I interviewed him many, many years ago. So what I'm saying is that they're keeping a lock, and there's leaked documents. I don't know if you were following my stuff back then, but since the beginning of July, when the 3i Atlas was first talked about, very shortly after that, and I posted this, it is on my Substack. There is a document that leaked. It came through what they call God something productions or whatever they call it, Godlike or something. I don't remember their name of that. It's a platform. It's, a forum, what they call a forum. And so somebody leaked an insider document that actually gave instructions to the entire secret space science community, that said, total lockdown, do not communicate anything you have on this subject to the public. Period. It was incredible. And that's exactly what has happened.
Wow. So they know the powers that be know because they have ties to the secret space program and so that would make sense. They know exactly what's going on. What's really
Absolutely. Going on. The higher levels, of course. And remember the meeting that was called by Hegseth, as far as I'm concerned, that meeting was about 3i Atlas and the other attending, whatever you want to call them, portals or orbs or whatever they are. In other words, that was a meeting where they had to go offline so that they had these people fly in, right person. Because most everything gets communicated over, email and the various electronic ways that we have. So, but they spent a tremendous amount of money flying in a good portion of the military to give them instructions. And you can bet that included some things about Three-Eye Atlas, what they were going to attempt to do. See, at this moment, we still have, today's the 23rd to the 29th. After that, in theory, Three-Eye Atlas will be visible again. It'll come around from behind behind the sun. Now, they lie to you about that as well. Okay, so the reality is the secret space program does have, and this is documented, spacecraft, satellites and telescopes on satellites and so on and so forth that are on the other side of the sun. I mean, you'd be idiotic not to be tracking all of that if you're part of what's called Solar Warden and you're guarding our solar system. Okay, they've got to have all kinds of surveillance technology up there, and they definitely do. And in fact, Anthony Sanchez, all those years ago, talked about Project Leonid, that were a network of satellites that were nano, and they also were self-replicating and could repair themselves. They're there, they're up there. Okay, the Lockheed Martin scientists that went on the run and reported to him actually told him about this. And he got death threats. I got death threats for interviewing him. I have an interview with him I've never been able to release because they said he and his whole family would be killed if I did. I mean, this is how, I just wish people understood that, that these threats are real and that this information is so crucial to our well-being and to our sovereignty as humans. And that these people that don't want us to know the truth, they are actually traitors to humanity. That's real, okay? They are traitors. When you lie to somebody, you're actually, basically dissing them. You're putting them down when you lie to them. You're basically saying, as Jack Nicholson said, you can't handle the truth. In other words, the person lying thinks they can handle the truth, but you can't. So it is a top-down, hierarchical a way of talking. And I know people in the MAGA movement that talk like that all the time. They believe they can handle the truth, but no one else can. And I also think that, I can tell you that certain conversations that have been shared with me that go on within that group is basically to keep me out of meetings, to keep me out of the scene, to put me down even online, is because I won't settle for that. I know they're lying. They're lying every second of every day. And they call it the Q operation, and they give hints, so there's hints of truth. Yeah. But they're also conducting a lot of ops. Charlie Kirk was not killed. He's alive. Okay. Erica Kirk and her children are probably in witness protection with him or even separately. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? I have testimony to this effect. This was a white hat operation to get him off the scene because his rhetoric with regard to the Israelis who are under the thumb of the Anunnaki was pissing, the Anunnaki off. And I guess he possibly had some death threats, and they decided they had to take the action first in order to protect him. And well, they should. But I'm saying here that, in the end of the day, like once an op is over, why don't you just say, it's an op, we hit him, because the enemy knows the truth. You don't. This is how it is. That's how they operate. The enemy knows full well because they know the game board. They both sides, the light and the dark, know the board game. They know the rules. They know how it's operating. It's Godfather all over again. Okay. And this is known. I mean, everything that I revealed about JFK Jr. is known and was known way before I got into the scene. But they make a really big thing like, oh, you're outing him. That's not nice. That's putting him in danger. It's bullshit. He's been in danger. He's had numerous death threats. You guys don't know this. I do, because I was very close to the white hats in the early days, going back to 2010 and earlier. Okay.
I got a question. What are your thoughts on Trump now? Because I know you were a big supporter of Trump, but do you feel like Trump's hands are tied in certain ways, and do you feel like he has to take orders from the Anunnaki, or
Well,
do you
this
think
goes back to your question about, does Space Force have any control over the secret space program, or are they also under their thumb? And this is something that I wrote about in my Substack number of articles, especially when Trump came back into power recently, because that's a big question. Now, I don't know for sure. What I look for are the signs and signals that Space Force is doing something opposite from the deep space, secret space program. And I'll tell you one area where it does appear that they didn't operate along those lines. In other words, they're breaking away from that traditional secret space program, which was the Palisades fire in LA, which I live right near there. So we were evacuated during that time. And there was information that came out that actually the directed energy weapons that caused the fire came from Area 51. And even 107 did a show showing about the tracking and the tracing that showed that this is a fact. So it was known. Okay, so that means that 107 being a white hat, being involved with Space Force, that Space Force tracked those weapons that caused the Palisades fire. They were set. Those fires were ridiculously set. And this is how you tell. You've got to take the intel that you get, and once in a while, whether it comes from 107 or some other, secret source. Certain people might say Phil, not going to say his last name, is a techie that works for them. There are certain people that supposedly have insider information, and they will give you that information. Okay. So they're basically supposed to be semi-spokespeople for the movement. That's how you can tell where Space Force is separating itself from the traditional secret space program. So that was one area which I was very happy to hear, that they actually would have the chutzpah to come forward and reveal that to the people. I'm guessing most people, sort of filed that away in their brain if they even heard it, and don't even think about it now. I do believe they were, attacked. The Space Force was attacked at Lahaina. Maui is a center of Space Force, okay? And their battles with, SSP were going on underground, I was told, during the directed energy weapons that were decimating Lahaina. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, we have a war within different divisions of our military. And a lot of those people hate each other. They can't stand each other. And, they would as easily kill each other as they would kill an Anunnaki, let's say. So, and getting back to Bob Dean and the Anunnaki, he said the Anunnaki, and this was around 2010, the Anunnaki are walking the halls of the Pentagon. He said it plain and simple in an interview with me, okay? And it's known that the Anunnaki have also, sort of manufactured bodies that are, shorter like us, like more, in the 6 foot and lower level in terms of height, because the real Anunnaki are more like 9 feet tall.
Wow. They're huge. They're like giants.
Yeah, they're very tall. They're not huge. They're not giants quite like giants. Giants are 24 feet tall.
Yeah. But 9 feet's pretty big, I mean, like 7 feet.
The Anunnaki are tall, the actual ones that aren't being, hiding in bodies that are smaller.
I mean, I was going to ask you, do you think there's Anunnaki hybrids that are mixing in with like us every day and stuff like that?
Well, back when they invaded Earth and took over the human race and divided them into these two groups, basically, one under the control in Africa and of Enki, who was a master geneticist, and the other under Enlil, and then both sons reporting to Anu, the king, who's still the king of the Anunnaki. So, and then there's Marduk, who runs Mars, by the way. So what we're talking, I mean, look, 3i Atlas could be carrying Marduk. It could be a Marduk operation. Okay, that's why it's coming, spending so much time near Mars and all this shit. I mean, I think I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but understanding the trajectory, understand by watching the show that I did with David Sereda, where he was doing the mathematics. I already got a download that the Anunnaki were involved with 3i Atlas. Okay, so that much I got. Then he showed me the trajectory, and it started to speak unequivocally as each place they were going by was significant to our history with the Anunnaki going back centuries. Okay, so that's why I look at it and I say, this is the return of the Anunnaki, some division of them. Okay. Now I know there are people out there, again, I'm not going to name their names, who think, all this airy fairy shit and they're going to save us and be nice to us after all. And there's a good portion. Look, if you've ever seen the TV show V, then you must understand.
I grew up in the 80s. I remember V perfectly. That was and also remember the Roddy Piper movie, They Live, where he was able to see the reptilians with the glasses.
Sure. But especially V is perfect because they're going to, a lot of these people that are deceived, they are downloading what they think are their friends. They're going to protect them and they're going to take care of them. And they may even think they have evidence of that, because they're going to fake you out. So this is what we're getting right now. We're getting a lot of people who are starting to maybe come to the surface and make a name for themselves as broadcasters or whatever. But I'm saying a warning right here. A lot of these people are deceived, and ETs are really good at deceiving. And the 2V television shows that were quite a number of years apart depict this type of deception very well. And by the way, let's see, this Childhood's End by 2001: Space Odyssey, the guy.
I'm trying to think. Why can't I think of his name?
Arthur C. Clarke. So Arthur C. Clarke wrote a famous short novella, I think they call it. And it's all about how a race of beings comes to Earth and says, okay, we're going to offer you to have peace on Earth. And in exchange, you're going to let us run the place or whatever kind of thing. And they make nice with the humans and then they take over totally. And what happens to the humans in this kind of scenario, they're like prisoners in a prison, even more so than we are now. And they don't have the hope of rebellion. They're not allowed to rebel, obviously. And what happens is they lose all creativity, all the urges to be creative. And that's what saves us, because we are in the image we're built after is the creator, but it's the creator. We are creators by nature. We're not made to worship. That's bullshit. Okay. Sorry, against all religions over here. I am not a fan of religions of any kind, really. I think there are certain religions that have some truths. I think the truth shall set you free is probably the wisest thing, Jesus ever said. I think he's never coming back because he did a good job the first time and there's no need for it. I think he is an avatar. I think like Ashiana Dean reported, there were 3 Jesus type figures during a certain period of history. One was considered to be, 6th dimensional. One was 9th, and I think there might have been a 12th. But anyway.
Yeah.
So
we have a question
they
here.
were put into a story. When you make a story, it's just like Hollywood makes a movie. They take tons of poetic license, it's called, to get their point across. So that is what the Council of Nicaea did. All right. That's what those old white men did. Hello?
Yeah. We got a question here from Indigo Angel. She says, could you ask Kerry about the Guardian Alliance? She says, do you think they're intervening with the Anunnaki or Three Eye Atlas. That ties into Ocean material, right?
Right.
Do you
The
think the
Guardian,
Guardian
well, according to the
Alliance is somehow intervene
information.
or anything like that?
Yeah, I was in touch, or probably still am, with the Guardians. Okay, so the reason I know that is because I went on a trip to India with Ashiana Dean and her group. And as she was getting downloads, I was getting those downloads right before she started talking, as it happened during the show, the travel. So I realized I was in contact with them then. I can tell you that, I was attracted to her whole platform and her book and I've interviewed her. Obviously, people know that. I'm one of the very few people in the whole world that's interviewed her, for what it's worth. And she is very brilliant, but she's also, she, in a sense, she's a scribe. She was given downloads of what to, write in her books. So the books are written by the Guardians, and the Guardians are clearly saying that they are on the side of humanity, and they are revealing real truth. Whereas the raw material, this is a frustration I had early on with that material, is as I read it, I realized that they were holding back a whole lot of information. So they were also trying to cover up and hide, as the Bible does, just secrecy. They're all about secrecy. Okay, I don't know if we lost you.
I agree. My camera froze really bad. So you can still hear me, right? My camera froze really bad, and I didn't want it to look that,
Okay.
I just took it off for a second. I don't know what's going on. But let me ask you this. More about Three Eye Atlas. Like, do you have a message for humanity and on how we can prepare and like protect ourselves, or what do you think is going to happen?
I think that we're going to be wondering, and now look, some of this may have already happened. There was a period that people don't seem to know or remember that David Sereda made a special point of talking about on our interviews over the past few months, where even though the government wasn't shut down, there was a shutdown. We were unable to see what was going on with Three Eye Atlas. I think it was between, I don't know if it was July 18th or, up to the 30th or something like that. There was a period of time, I think it might have been 15 days or more. I'd have to go back and look at the exact dates, when there was a complete blackout of images, again, from Three Eye Atlas. And at that time, Three Eye Atlas wasn't behind the sun. In fact, it was, I think it was coming in towards Earth and Mars on the trajectory. And I'm not sure exactly where it was, but you can go back in the history and see. But what I'm saying is there was a blackout then. In other words, they were not letting anyone see what was going on with Three Eye Atlas. And I believe that during that time is the most logical time when Space Force and or the SSP or both would have gone and made trips, connection with it, communicated with it, maybe even boarded it like you would a ship. You can, a ship in the seas that's trespassing on your territory. In other words, there are certain procedures that they would have gone through to communicate with the ship incoming. No doubt about it. And they wouldn't have waited until, it goes beyond the sun. Now, that might have been one of their operations. The CME it was hit by was probably one of their operations in cahoots with another ET group that may be more positively oriented, like the Pleiadians or whoever it is. In other words, we don't know. It's very important to understand the big gaps in our understanding of what has really gone on, even with this craft so far. And they're deceiving us. They continue to deceive us. So what's going on behind, one is so-called hidden behind the sun, when the government is conveniently shut down. I mean, this is just like so obvious that they're messing with whatever's going on. They're not going to just sit there like, lumps. Okay. If there is developed, as my whistleblowers say they are, which is to be 10,000 years in advance of where we are now on surface Earth, they laugh at us. Okay. They do not take Trump and the rest seriously. I got to tell you, that's what I've been told, like it or not. I don't know if it's completely true, but that's I've been told. So what I'm saying here is that I like people to make a distinction between what we really know, what we think might be going on, and what all the possibilities of what could be going on. And so I think that there's reason to believe that our Space Force and SSP have been interacting with this ship since it was detected. And it was probably detected before July 1st when it was reported, because anything they tell you about ultimately is just something they couldn't quite hide. I'm sorry, that's just how they work. If they can lie to you, they fucking do.
Yeah. Karen McDonald had a good question. She says, "What's up with the ASW Bank or AWS Bank and the Amazon blackouts? Did you have any information on it, or do you have any opinion on it?"
Well, yes, and actually, in David's article that I put it on my my Telegram, which is on Medium. So David has a Substack on Medium. He talks about the blackout, and I think he was going to write another article. He said soon he's going to write another article about the blackout. But I imagine that's in keeping with blocking in any incoming information that they don't want out here. So I definitely think there's a connection. I don't think that just happened. Oh, it was so convenient, that it's also during the shutdown. Maybe there was a leak they had to plug, maybe coming from some other space organization that was, is involved. Maybe it was the Chinese. These are things that are going on constantly. Our secret space program is constantly involved, if you want to call it that, with outer space. And, along those lines, Epstein and I believe Erica Kirk, I believe they're both involved in the child trafficking off planet of children and to our colonies. I believe that's the aspect of the real secret space program that they have been involved in. Epstein, yes, the honeypots and all that. And the guy is a complete pervert, no doubt. But I think he was being used to do a lot of work for them. He was working for in essence, the Anunnaki, which is the Mossad and so on.
I just want to say this was something that if people didn't see, you kind of spoke on this on detail. This is kind of like a galactic slave trade that's going on. You spoke about this in detail last time we did a show, that, you believe that people are being trafficked off planet to build colonies off world, right? And that's being done.
Yeah, there's actually no doubt about it. And if you go to my Substack, you can see that I've been writing on Substack for God knows how long. There's one of my articles that is documenting this whistleblower called Michael Herrera, who I don't know if he actually spoke at the UAP hearing recently, but he was supposed to give evidence. There is a drawing of what he and his military group came across in Indonesia just after a major earthquake that caused a lot of destruction. They were in the jungle. They came across a operation that was military. All the military were dressed in black from head to toe. They didn't have any insignias and that sort of thing, but they had humans in cages that they were gathering from this natural disaster, which is a really common way for them to do this slave trade that goes on. According to Mark Richards, even delivering a lot of these, humans in cages to the reptilians underground in their nests, which are below our secret, underground bases.
The DOMs. Yeah.
Like 10 miles below those. Understand this is what's going on here. This is a major type of thing. So now, again, from my point of view, why don't you tell humans that you've got colonies? Why don't you just tell them and recruit? That people would go willingly, I'm sure. Yeah. But everything's secrecy. What is wrong with these people's mentality? I have no idea. They just don't want to tell the truth. They don't believe in the God-given intelligence of all humans. They think they're special or whatever the hell it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just insane. It's such a top-down mentality. It's so hierarchical, and it is a holdover from the reptilian influence over humanity.
There is one girl who talks about, I don't know, she comes on my show and she comes on her name's Olivia James. She says she worked for Mars Defense Force, and she says they do recruit some people now. I don't know if you've heard this, but she's saying, she told me that they do recruit people and some people are going willingly. Like,
Sure.
like some people are excited to
Well,
go.
I mean, listen to Laura Eisenhower. They tried to recruit her. You know that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's interesting. It's great. I had one more. This is a good question. This is from Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. He wanted to see if you had any information on this. Which ETs are shooting down SpaceX launches? I don't know if anybody heard about that.
Well, I mean, it's going to get, again, this could easily be an Anunnaki operation or reptilian, because according to William Tompkins, again, if you watch my 3-hour interview with him, he talks about that. He talks about how during the early development of our space program, there were 2 ET races that were helping, okay? And one was the Pleiadians on a good way, and he was part of that group. And then the other was the reptilians. And what the reptilians do is they are always trying to hobble us, hold us back from our development. So that's where you get this sort of thing. And then the Anunnaki being actually taken over by the reptilians and made hybridized. And the ones that are here on Earth, probably trying to direct and control things, are again partly reptilian. And they're also, carved in the sides of the temples in, Egypt. I do tours every year there whenever possible. And Iran and Iraq and so on and so forth. So this is, it's a worldwide thing. There are other negative ET races, and Mark Richards talks about all the different ones, like the spider beings having a lot to do with Vietnam. And that's the real reason they had Vietnam, is because these portals were open in that area, and these horrible spider beings, which are quite large, apparently. It's really gross, but this is what he said. It sounds insane, but they were there during Angkor Wat. And what they did is they came in. I've told this story before. This is a Mark Richards story. They came into that area back during the time when Angkor Wat is said to have just disappeared all of a sudden, just emptied out, that all the humans were gone, like overnight practically. And what really happened there is that these spider beings came in through the portals and basically dried. They didn't do anything to the river. There was a river going right through the middle of Angkor Wat, but they mind control their victims before they kill them. That's like even a spider thing. So they mind controlled all the people in Angkor Wat to think they had no water. So they were actually weakened and dying of thirst. So they then could take them over. So that's what he said happened there. And then they returned around the time of the Vietnam War to the areas of Cambodia and Laos and so on. Wow. And I did interviews with soldiers, because I put the word out asking if any soldiers had the return of their memories, because they do wipe their memories all the time in war zones. And so I had 2 or 3 soldiers come forward with memories of having seen these spider beings.
Yeah. And then this might be a stupid question, but it's also a good one too, from Chief Mustache on Rumble. And thanks for watching on Rumble. He says, why still kids when everything we hear about cloning? Do you think it's because of the pure essence of the children, and they want something out of that, like something disgusting or perverted, or is it because they need the DNA to populate off-world humans or something like that? Certain DNA.
Sounds like he's really talking about adrenochrome, which is a different thing. That's actually why they kill and torture children, and they're taking. Okay, so Kundalini activation will activate your orgone, your plasma, and give you all kinds of powers and so on and so forth, chi, and the children are being tortured for what is called adrenochrome. It's a drug. They sell it to people in Hollywood, Wall Street, so on and so forth. A lot of the elite, to try to keep what it keeps you younger is that children contain, the best source of orgone, the least diluted, I guess you might say.
Pure cheap. It's like it's not diluted with like cigarettes and alcohol and drugs like us all adults.
Yeah. So orgone in children as up through the teens. So up through your teens, you have very active, you don't even have to meditate because you've got this amazing amount of chi or orgone, whatever you want to call it. So it's after the age of around 20, a little later sometimes, where it starts to go down. And then that's what aging does. Okay. That's when you start to age. So these, wealthy people have been, I call it the adrenochrome highway. They have been purchasing this drug that is a concoction made up of the blood and the orgone of children, tortured children. And so also has to do with it has to do with adrenaline that gets stimulated when a child or a being, even an animal, is in a fight or flight syndrome, right? That's when the most gets produced. So anyway, that's one angle. Now, as far as clones, yes, there are cloning facilities. In fact, part of the White Hat operations, again, this is where they're borrowing from the playbook of the dark side, is that supposedly under Gitmo are cloning facilities that have been cloning a lot of the people that they actually have already killed. They've given them tribunals, they've executed them, and they've allowed their doubles or clones to walk around so that people are none the wiser. I mean, like, from my point of view, this is just stupid. But this is how they think they get away with doing things, because there will not be a backlash. A lot of people may not like to, okay, all the Democrats who think Hillary was a good person, I mean, she was a black witch, like nobody's business, are going to freak out because they love these people. They think they're so wonderful. I mean, there's a whole list of them, and it's known on the internet. I think I won't name the names, but they're really known. And these people are very diabolical black magicians that got involved with black magic and the Satanism. And the thing is that, we're going back now when we're talking about the Khazarian mafia and the Anunnaki. They are all the same race, all right? And they feed on actually humans. So they're feeding on not each other, but humans. And when they have more Anunnaki, reptilian and reptilian DNA, this is what they do.
Yeah. Wow. I was just going to ask you, is there anything else you want to cover before we finish up for today? And I thought we kind of covered it. We kind of went all over the place. Is there anything you wanted to, kind of touch on before we finish up?
Not sure that I can think of anything right offhand, other than to tell people that the true God doesn't want you to be, walking around, bowing and worshiping and doing all this nonsense, because they don't need it. First of all, they could care less. They wouldn't be a real God otherwise. And that the true creator God wants you to stand alongside him or her, however you want to visualize that, and be equals to God, to actually take control of your life and not go around in a subservient, slave-like manner, and so on. So this idea of, I've got to ask Jesus's permission to do such and such. Look, if you're just going to be weaklings for the rest of your life or your sojourn on earth, you'll never get it. You'll never understand what this experiment is really all about, which is basically, to enlighten, to bring up to the level of God everything and everybody. All consciousness is God. Okay. So that's what I would like to say.
I love that. That's a great way to, yeah. And I'm sorry about the camera problems. I would rather have my camera off than look stupid with a frozen face. I don't know why it does that. It's StreamYard or something, but no, this was amazing, Kerry. And thank you so much. And I always enjoy having you on the show. And do you want anything you'd like to promote? And thank you again. Yeah.
Yeah, please go to my website, projectcamelotportal.com. I've got my 2 new books right on the front page down there. And, please watch my interviews and go to Rumble where all the newest ones are. And yeah, support my channel, click the follow button, all that kind of thing. They are trying to ghost me on Telegram all the time. So please go to my Telegram. I literally post there at 3 a.m. I'm every single day I post a Telegram, and it doesn't mean that I agree with the post. Okay. So don't get the wrong idea. If I post there, usually I'll start ranting about the post, but sometimes I won't, I'll just post it. It's just to let you know that of something that I think is worth being aware of. It could be positive, it could be negative.
I love that. I love the fact that you're neutral about stuff. That's how I try to be as well. I think we have to be in today's day
Not
and age.
everything, I have my preferences, sure. But I'm going to, what I'm interested in is enlightenment. That's my highest goal. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today, and please follow Kerry on her Rumble channel and at Project Camelot.tv and ProjectCamelotPortal.com. And thank you so much, everybody, and have a good night, everyone. Take care.